Let's talk about the interesting robbery at Ferraro's Bakery in New York. It's one of the oldest bakeries in the city, 1865 or something like that. It's at 195 Grand Street. You can go there down in Manhattan. It was suspected of being, at that time now, and this is 1971, a stash house for the Colombo crime family. The bosses had their money put there, as opposed to keeping it in their house. If they were raided, the money would be taken. There's another story going around. Doesn't make much sense to me that all of the bosses of the five families had their money stored there. I don't know about that. In 1971, it's Easter weekend. Joey Gallo, who was the problem child of organized crime in New York at the time, he sends two of his guys. They break into the place. They get into a locked safe on the second floor. They stole $50,000. My guess would be it's a hell of a lot more than that. That was what was reported. The robbers were Gennaro, Ciprio, and Richie Grossman. Grossman was a credit card thief. Ciprio had interesting lineage. He was the godson of Carmine Dibaise, Sonny Pinto. You think he would have known better. Ciprio was murdered on April 10th, right after the robbery. He's walking out of a restaurant in Brooklyn. His sister's standing beside him. They walked up and shot him in the head. 3 days before Joey Gallo was killed, Richie Grossman was murdered. They just dumped him on the side of a road in Sheepshead Bay. And then, of course, 5 days after the robbery, April 7th, Joey Gallo was murdered. 3 weeks here, this may explain for some, it makes sense to me why Gallo was actually killed. 3 weeks before the robbery at the bakery, Gallo, his guy Frank Punchy, Illiano was a boxer, hence the name, and John Cutrone, called Mooney, went out to the San Francisco nightclub in Mineola, Long Island, which apparently was either owned outright or John Franzese, a powerful capo in the Colombo fund, but either owned it outright or had a deep interest in it in something. Franzese also was supposed to have had an interest in the bakery, or had his cash at the bakery. So Gallo this guy walks into the San Susan, grabs a man, and he goes, "This is nightclub. I like," actually what he says, "I like this place, a nice place. This joint is mine. Get out." And they murdered him a little bit later. You just can't play.
Sonny Franzese, an underboss with the Colombo crime family, described as the last of the old-time mafia bosses. I spoke with the author of a new book detailing his complicated life and decades of violence.
All right, we mentioned to you at the beginning of our program tonight, there's a major roundup underway of top leaders in organized crime in our area.
The late 1970s and early 80s, New York City, when mob violence regularly made headlines and FBI raids seemed to come often.
They were arrested by federal and state law enforcers after an 18-month investigation.
The Colombo crime family, often the target of federal law enforcement, as their own bloody civil war spilled over and into the streets.
To parade a gaggle of gangsters before cameras and microphones.
There are many well-known wise guy stories from this era. Now a closer look at one man wrapped up in it all. John "Sonny" Franzese, the underboss of the Colombo family at multiple times over the course of nearly a century.
And he was an unabashed bad guy. Certainly when I talked to him, he didn't admit any murders because there's no statute of limitations on murders. But he was certainly proud of his life of crime.
Newsday investigative journalist Sandra Petty interviewed Franzese when he was over 100 years old.
He was completely lucid, very smart, very charming.
Her new book, Sonny, the last of the old-time mafia bosses, is a closer look at his complicated legacy.
He was the kind of guy you would want to invite to a backyard barbecue until you realize you'd be crazy to let him near anyone. He is suspected of killing 40 to 50 people.
And there was the extortion.
Some rough guys would come to the club and start busting it up. Well, the owner doesn't know what to do, so he turns to Sonny. And Sonny would say, "Well, yeah, I can take care of it for you, but it's going to cost you."
On the surface, though, things were much different. Sonny rubbed shoulders with celebrities and athletes and raised a family before being sent to prison for orchestrating a string of robberies nationwide in the late 1960s.
If Sonny had lived a straight life, he could have been the CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Franzese was paroled in the 1970s, but by the 80s, one of his sons, Michael, was starting to make headlines of his own. This report from the Fox 5 archive.
I'm not bitter. I would say I'm very disappointed.
Michael Franzese was sent to prison on conspiracy.
To the 100th season of the National Football League. Tonight is not about the league. What's up, Juju? It's about football. It's about the players, the fans, the moments, and everything else that makes you say,
Oh boy.
Fumble! Oh!
Let's go! Joe! No can do, cowboy.
Here we go now!
Come on, TG. Damn, B. Y'all know I have more yards than they do. You still got it. That hurt. Boy, this is a great party.
Get out there, old man.
Obese.
Hey, come on now!
Yes.
He's open.
Russ?
I got you, Tony.
That's the cake.
Can I have the ball, please?
You want this? Come and get it.
Every time it rains, it's gonna rain. That is from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains? That is from heaven.